We sent Taylor Coyne on a stroll through downtown Pasadena, California over lunch hour. As you can see, the lunch crowd was a little bit light. It appears the Omicron variant has been putting a damper on America's restaurant recovery. But I guess the question is, how bad is it really? And what's the outlook for the future? Well, Taylor is going to walk us through the numbers to find out just that. Plus, we're looking at social media virtual delivery brands. These are interesting. You're going to want to stick around for this. Plus, Smoky Bones has a new store design. All of that right now on everything we know about retail. Hello, my name is James Cook, coming to you from Indiana, where my number one dining away from home option for 2021 was takeout from Five Guys Burgers and Fries. Ebere Anokute is joining us from New York.
I am, and my top pick for 2021 was Planet Wings, without a doubt.
And Taylor Coyne is in Los Angeles.
And my go-to choice in 2021 was a place called Daisy Mint. Isn't that delightful? It's a local Thai place down the street.
How quaint. And this is Everything We Know About Retail, where we tell all of you everything we know about retail, 3 things at a time. We don't stop. We don't dilly-dally. Taylor, what do you know about retail?
The first thing that I know about retail is that Omicron is taking its toll on our dining recovery. I am sorry to be the bearer of bad news of our first episode in 2022, but alas, this is where we are. So, I feel like we've all talked about this, right? Restaurants just want to get back to normal. My goodness, have they had a rough go. With labor shortages, this is even pre-Omicron, right? It is becoming increasingly difficult. So, take a gander at this chart. Basically, we are seeing accommodation and food services. We are just seeing a ton of open jobs. Retail in general has been having a hard time, but add in food services, and it's just kind of, unfortunately, a whole new level. A record 4.5 million workers quit their jobs in November. Job openings declined to 10.6 million. Holiday staffing was down 7.5% from 2020. And again, that's broadly, but restaurant and healthcare workers were responsible for much of this surge in, what we're calling the Great Resignation. Specifically, also for F&B, we're 5.26% under November levels. So, even in good times when you could operate, people are just struggling to find labor. So now that we have a new variant, it's even harder. Not to be even more depressing, but this is our case rate right now. This is according to the New York Times. Yeah, it's yikes indeed. Mm-hmm. However, I would like to
I choose to look at hospitalizations. That's my and deaths. Look at that.
Huge difference. Huge difference. So, I think all of this is to really paint this picture of we have a problem. Restaurants are definitely dealing with an issue, but this is a different kind of problem than we've had in the past. Yes, cases are up, and I am not trying to diminish the severity of this. It is still very dangerous, but thankfully with such high vaccination rates, people are getting sick. Fewer people are ending up in the hospital if you are vaccinated, especially if you are boosted. But again, survival is at stake because all of this news, is not making you want to go out and eat.
Right.
When you're trying to pick what activities you want to do, you might not be choosing to go dine inside at restaurants. So not only are we dealing with labor shortages, which again, when restrictions were lifted, it almost so felt like restrictions were still there, capacity restrictions, just because there wasn't enough labor. I remember going to a restaurant and being like, what are you talking about? Half the tables are open. And they're like, well, we don't have anyone to serve those tables. Wow. Like it's as if those don't exist right now. But, at the same time, we are still in a better place than last year. Let us remember that, even though we're dealing with hard times. So for those long-term fans, you will recognize this chart. This is from Open Table. They publish all of their reservation data, which is so helpful. It's a real time, real look at where people are dining out and are you making reservations? And it also takes walk-ins, but again, you have to have the Open Table data. The darker line is everything compared to 2019. The dotted line, that's the word. The dotted line was 2020 levels compared to 2019. You can kind of see up on the top, it shows you exactly what it is. So you can see we are still seeing some variations, but we are still in a better place than 2020. I think the biggest thing is these fluctuations, and it's not consistent. It's, it's really hard for restaurants to kind of keep up. But again, I think one of the biggest takeaways is that it's not as bad as last year. We have more knowledge. We have more, way more knowledge. And we also have vaccinations, which is huge. And people are still going out to dine. And on that note, pop quiz.
So just so I understand it, according
Yes.
to this, reservations in the end of December, beginning of January were about 20 to 30% below 2019 levels. Is that right?
That is a perfectly read chart analysis, because as of January 4th, we were 28% down from 2019 levels.
Yeah. So that's rough. And it's fun, just to emphasize what you said, it's like I personally feel safe, yet I'm also not going to dine in restaurants right now.
100%. It's
for
a
the
choice.
most part. I'm going to do a little bit. I'm going to go to a place this week, but for the most part, I'm not.
And when if I'm going to go out to eat, granted, I'm in a very different position because I do live in Los Angeles, right? So I am at an advantage. But if I'm going to go out to eat, I'm going to pick somewhere that has outdoor seating. Agreed. For myself, I'm less afraid, but also, I've now got a 6-month-old at home who's not vaccinated, who can't get vaccinated. So,
your own child is a vaccine objector. What is this, Taylor?
Can you believe it? He's so opinionated already. I don't know what I've done.
He's like, there's microchips. Okay. Anyway, so you were going to do a pop quiz. I totally derailed you.
No, it is fine. I understand. It was really for you to really absorb all of that information so you could better perform on the pop quiz. All right. The pop quiz. Which U.S. city saw the third highest rate of reservations compared to 2019 on New Year's Eve? This is a worded question because I had to say third because I accidentally already told you both what number 1 and number 2 was. So we're going third.
So wait,
which city?
Number 1 you said was Louisville.
Yeah.
Right. Number
Shocking.
2 is Las Vegas.
Number 2 is Las Vegas.
What's
This is
number
New Year's
3?
Eve. What is number 3? And again, this is, even though I would think about it as cities just in general that you would potentially think of nightlife, but this percentage is compared to 2019.
Like Miami?
I would say like Houston.
So
Atlanta.
I was trying to see how
Nashville.
far Miami is because it's so interesting. Miami has been pulling up all of the averages for walkers, dining, all of that this entire time. But no, fascinating. It's Nashville.
Huh?
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense.
Totally, when you think about it. But I will say both Miami and Houston have been in markets that have seen more reservations and more diners than some of the other markets. But yeah, that's just my tidbit. So, progress, I think. Overall progress is trending upwards, but we're having some problems.
So Taylor, right now, cases way up. Seems to be a bad time. Seems like Omicron is like Delta on crack, but it's going real fast, right? So what's our outlook? Like, when can we expect things to really start to normalize again?
I think you hit the nail on the head when you said it's fast. So it is bad, but it is fast. So I think mixed, to be perfectly honest, which, I feel like is the answer to all of this when we're dealing with pandemic news. But in the kind of bright spot is the vaccinations are continuing to increase. If you specifically look at just December, you saw an uptick in vaccinations. People are seeing the data that vaccinations are preventing you from going to the hospital and dying. So I think that is helping. Are we where I think any of us hoped we would be? No. But with increasing vaccinations, with how quickly this is moving, and unfortunately, I think warmer weather is going to help, which, again, for our warmer weather climates, this is going to happen sooner rather than later, but it's tough. So I think if you can weather this storm, I think truly in like a couple of months, we're already going to be in a drastically different place than we are right now. So like everything, time. And
Truly.
hang in there. People still want to dine out. We feel better about all of these things. It's just, I feel bad for all the restaurants that have to kind of deal with all these punches as they keep coming. But the outlook is not negative, just a little rocky for a little while. And on that note, Ebere, what do you know about retail?
Well, Taylor, on that beautifully positive, upbeat note, here we go. This is the second thing that we know about retail. And it actually is, a bright spot. We saw that, obviously we know that retailers are desperate to try to return to these sorts of sales growth that they were seeing before the pandemic, obviously. Back in 2019, when everything just made a little bit more sense and things were, a little bit more normal than they are now. But obviously that has been complicated by a lot of supply chain issues, inflation, and as Taylor just walked us through, the Omicron variant, of course. And so obviously, if these retailers aren't able to return to pre-pandemic levels, we could see a lot of them go out of business, which we saw happen in 2020 and, a little bit in 2021 as well, because I just remembered that we're in 2022. And
it's gonna take a
making
while.
that mistake for 3 months easy.
Honestly, I think more because, again, the whole thing of this is like, what is time? I don't know what year it is. 2019 was yesterday, so it's fine.
2 years of this so far. But yeah, so we could see a lot of these different retailers go out of business, like we saw, especially in New York, with a lot of restaurants and those sorts of operators. But luckily, it looks as though things are beginning to look up from a retail sales perspective, because Mastercard has reported that the holiday spending for 2021 was up almost 11% over 2019 levels, right? Which is awesome. So if you look at this chart here that Taylor was so nice to bring up for me, we can see that total retail, excluding automotive sales, was up about 10.7% from 2019. And honestly, you can go down and we see across all categories, whether it's in-store, online, apparel, jewelry, electronics, we saw increases across the board, right? So Mastercard defines their holiday period as the time from November 1st to December 24th, which obviously is inclusive of Black Friday and the whole Cyber Monday, Cyber Week, which, we spoke about on the show a couple weeks ago, where some of the numbers were not as, high over 2019 as we would have liked them to be. But when we take into account the entire holiday season in aggregate, Mastercard shows us that we're actually moving in the right direction. So that is a really, really encouraging data to see. Reportedly, according to some of the different analysts that have been talking, this is due to an increase in e-commerce sales, which we saw grow over 60% from 2019, and which accounted for more than 20% of all 2021 holiday sales. So e-commerce has definitely been buoying this resurgence, right? So we're very happy for that. But in-store sales also grew as well, just by 2.4%, but that's still growth. Okay, we are still growing, right? And when you look at the numbers from 2020 versus 2019 or 2021 versus 2020, it tells a very different story. So we're happy to see these numbers improving. And reports are also saying that because of supply chain shortages and supply chain issues and labor shortages, this has encouraged people to shop earlier. And when they say people, they aren't talking about me, because I was definitely at the Apple store on December 23rd trying to buy an iPad that they did not have. So some people were shopping earlier, and that sort of all the feet, we've been talking about it for months, right? That earlier shopping window and the convenience of shopping online contributed to some really positive numbers for holiday sales in 2021. So that's definitely good news. But I was actually curious for both of you whether either of you were impacted by the supply chain issues that we were forecasting all throughout the end of last year. Did that make it hard for you to get any gifts at all for your loved ones, or for you to receive gifts? Like, what was it like for you all?
I'll say no, but because I was really on top of my shopping, because I am redoing some rooms in my home. So I'm very familiar with how long some of those things are taking. So I was taking no chances and made sure I was on top of all of my gifts. So I will just say it was a little overly aggressive this year. So
yeah, that makes sense. What about you, James?
Yeah, I bought enough in advance, and I also chose things that were in the store, like the big gifts that I purchased in the store and got off the shelf, just so I knew I would have them in hand.
Mhm.
But on the receiving end, I got 1, 2, 3 different. Open up a card and it's a photo of something cut out and taped in saying this is on its way.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think everybody's got that story this
Yeah.
holiday season, of getting a little IOU, like you did, Ebere, on our virtual gift exchange.
I jinxed you, James. I'm so sorry. I hate to be, seeing the future like that, but that's what happened to you. But yeah, no, I also, had to do a little bit of shopping or get some gifts after Christmas for that same reason. So, but it wasn't honestly as much of a headache as I thought it was going to be, and there were still, a lot of things in stock. So, that overall makes for a positive holiday season when we look back at it. So hopefully we can expect to see this sort of retail activity and the comfort and ease with e-commerce and people. I mean, we'll see how Omicron affects people wanting to go shop in stores, but hopefully we'll continue to see retail sales stay strong, if not continue to increase as we continue out through the new year.
Yeah, I think that those findings really validated what we've been saying all along, that if there are supply chain issues, people aren't going to not buy things. They're just going to buy other things, which
Truly.
has certainly proven to be the case.
Truly. Yeah. And I also still wonder, I didn't see any headlines about it, but I wonder if there were a lot of gift cards given out this past year. I received a couple, but not more than usual, so I would like to see the data there and see if there was a surge in gift cards. But, we're happy to have this good news and hoping that prosperity continues. But James, tell me, what do you know about retail?
Well, here's the third thing that we know about retail. Casual dining restaurants. We talk about who's suffering the most right now. It's really dine in, and they had just, this summer, it really felt like the recovery was going to make, as soon as we got this labor shortage fixed, that the recovery was going to really roll in, and then we get hit with Omicron. So casual dining has been looking enviously at the success of quick service through all of this COVID. Whatever takeout or drive-through or pickup you choose has been booming like gangbusters. And they're putting in 2 drive-through lanes and 3 drive-through lanes. And eat-in restaurants have created a successful-ish off-premise dining program, a lot of them, but none of them saw numbers like fast food did. Like just QSR was just blowing it out of the park. And as we hopefully soon exit Omicron, operators are still going to be looking to the future. And I think that many of them see a time where off-premise dining is still really popular, that it's not going to go back to 2019 where it was a subcategory, a small subsegment. It's going to be like a much bigger category. And I think they understand we've got to catch this wave of off-premise dining. And so different brands are doing different ways of achieving that. One of them that's just been in the news at the end of December was Smoky Bones. I don't know if you guys are familiar with Smoky Bones, but they're here's their website. They're a barbecue chain. They've got about 60 locations. They were originally started by Darden, I think in the 90s, but they've spun off into their own thing. Anyway, I've not been, but I've heard a lot of good things. Like a lot of people really like Smoky Bones. They spun up an off-premise program, with takeout and delivery during COVID, but they're really trying to kick that up a notch. They've announced a new prototype of a new restaurant that is going to have both a full-blown drive-through system like you would see at McDonald's and a full-blown casual sit-down dining experience in the same restaurant. I can't think of another chain that's done that. I think Applebee's experimented it with like one location once, but I can't think of another place where you have sit-down dining and the full drive-through. So Smoky Bones, they partnered with the Howard Company, which was an outside firm that specializes in drive-through systems. I don't think they had the internal experience, obviously, because they're sit-down dining experts. Mm-hmm. So they had to go to get this outside experience. They've got a full drive-through with the lanes, the menus, the digital displays. Also, they have to, think about it. you can't do drive-through and get barbecue like real fast. So they have to add in a new express menu with sort of drive-through items. So they're opening this first experimental Smoky Bones location in Bowling Green, Kentucky, sometime in Q1. I'm curious if you guys think that adding drive-through to a sit-down experience will diminish the brand. Like, does it feel less special if where you're eating at has a drive-through lane?
I don't think I care. However, different menus could be an issue.
Well,
You're thinking when you
yeah.
drive through that you're going to have a similar experience where I can replicate the experience I've had sitting down, obviously different, right? Because I'm busy and I'm bringing it home to my family or something like that. But if it's a different menu, it's confusing. That can be very confusing.
Let me make it even more confusing for you. During COVID, Smoky Bones also rolled up some virtual brands. So they have a virtual brand called the Wing Experience and another one called the Burger Experience. So, you were on Grubhub and you ordered from the Burger Experience. You didn't realize you were actually ordering from Smoky Bones. All of those brands are also going to be available for the drive-through. So it's a lot.
Too much.
I don't know if it I don't know how I feel. Like Taylor said, I don't know that I care necessarily if there's a drive-through at a place I'm eating at, but I'm thinking philosophically, what then differentiates a casual dining place with a drive-through versus a QSR place that has seats, Because I'm not gonna say I've been to Wendy's recently, but if you go to a Wendy's, they have places to, they have seating places.
It's table service, it's
Sure,
alcohol, the price points are higher, the quality, it's slower service. But yeah, I don't know. And just this idea of me going through a drive-through and the sign says Smoky Bones, but now they've got burgers and they've got wings. And if I order this thing that's on their regular menu, I'm probably gonna have to wait 5 or 10 minutes. And this other thing is on the express menu. I applaud them for experimenting because that's how you succeed. But I do think that there's going to be some kinks to work out.
Yeah, 100%. I applaud them. Yeah. Sorry, go ahead, Taylor.
No, also, I was just thinking about honestly pulling into the drive-through, pulling into the parking lot if I want to eat there. And it just sounds like it's going to be a lot of the people who are in the drive-through of wait times. Yes, there's an express menu. I don't know. It just sounds like a lot. And so if I want the experience of the sit down and I'm like also kind of navigating with a huge line of drive-through cars in the drive-through, I don't know. It's a lot.
Yeah, I think they're definitely blurring the lines a little bit. Obviously there are things that distinguish the two experiences, but in my head, if there's if Applebee's starts doing drive-through, then that's the quality of the food. I won't be able to differentiate that in my head versus a fast food place, right? So I think that there's nothing wrong with the fast food places, but if that's not what they're going for, if they really want to market themselves as a dining experience with table service and stuff, I think conflating these offerings is gonna just make people unsure of what they're gonna get when they go to Smoky Bones, right? I haven't heard of it before you mentioned it now, but I don't know. I feel like I would be confused. I'd be like, Smoky Bones is rebranding into something I don't understand. That's how I would feel as a loyal Smoky Bones visitor.
Yeah, and this kind of, I started talking about virtual brands. This leads into another whole discussion. This, virtual brands, which were delivery only brands that were ways for casual restaurants to put their excess kitchen capacity to use during COVID. And I think we talked about this before, that if I go on to Uber Eats and order from Wow Bao, it's actually being made at my local Fazoli's. But I wouldn't know that because unless I went and reverse Googled the address and figured out there was a Fazoli's there. So there's all these new virtual brands that are being actually created out of, like a Chuck E. Cheese kitchen, or the other example is Buca de Beppo. Actually, this leads perfectly. So Robert Earl, I don't know if you guys are familiar with him, but he's a known guy. He's on like some Food Network shows or whatever. He's also the owner of Buca de Beppo, Bertucci's, and Planet Hollywood, I think. Anyway, he created this other thing called virtual dining concepts in 2018 that's turned out to be super good timing. And it is a turnkey service for restaurant owners. So, I'm a restaurant during COVID and I've got my kitchen sitting fallow. I partner with virtual dining concepts and I pick and choose. Hey, I want to use your burger brand. I want to do your wings. Virtual dining does all of the marketing. And gets it running up on, I think it's on Grubhub. All I do is make it, and I get, I think, 30% of the profits. So the other weird thing, well, not weird, but interesting thing about virtual dining is all of their marketing is around social media. So their concepts, well, let me just tell you what the concepts are. I think we've talked about Mr. Beast Burger before. Is that right? Are you guys familiar with Mr. Beast on YouTube?
Yes, but only because I think you and I have talked about it maybe on the show before. And then I went and looked it up and like tried to get it delivered. And I mean, I'll be honest, really mixed reviews.
So that would have been made for you probably in your local Buca di Beppo.
Which is funny. There is a Buca di Beppo. Like I walked past it yesterday when taking the videos in Pasadena. So
yeah,
quick delivery.
So Mr. Beast is like one of the top YouTubers. I've seen a couple of the videos. They're pretty entertaining. I saw one where his thing is about spending lots of money. Like he's like, we spent $500,000 on fireworks and now we're going to shoot them off and videotape it, which sounds stupid, but it was actually kind of entertaining. That's a video I watched. But, some other folks, they partner with YouTubers, but also just celebrities in general. So there's Mariah Cookies from
Mariah Carey.
You got it. And then they've got,
are they sugar cookies? Was it a holiday thing? Like for all I want for Christmas is you?
I'm sure they must have holiday cookies. Another one was Steve.
She doesn't make enough from royalties for that song, so she really needs to get into the cookie business. Sorry to interrupt.
No, you're fine. Another one was Steve Harvey's Family Food.
That's funny.
Which is like, I looked at the menu. It's like chicken and pork sandwiches, like Southern fast food. Anyway,
the market for this stuff.
Right. And the latest is TikTok Kitchen. So this is a menu inspired by the food trends on TikTok, which include, I think the biggest one I think that you were talking about, Taylor, was the baked feta pasta. Is that what you were?
Yes, and I don't know why I know what it is. Like I said, none of this. I'm not the target audience for any of this stuff, but I have seen the baked feta pasta. I've
seen that as well, and I was similarly confused as to how that could be.
All right. Well, while I'm talking, Taylor, see if you could pull it up on your screen and share your screen. The other big ones, so these are basically, we're going to do a delivery service of the hot TikTok food fads of the moment. Baked feta pasta, smash burgers, corn ribs. No idea what that is. Pasta chips. Had to look that one up. It's like potato chips, but they're made out of pasta. So here's the thing.
I guess.
Right. Because of this, they're going to have to update their menu every quarter because, I mean, TikTok moves at the speed of light. So by the time you spin up a menu, you're going to have to spin it out. Like for me, if I'm a restaurant owner, I'd much rather have a brand that does chicken and fries and burgers because I know those are going to be popular 5 years from now. Mm-hmm. Where let's say I go to all the trouble of teaching my staff how to make pasta chips and corn ribs. Like in 3 months, nobody's going to even remember what that is.
Unless they're delicious. And then maybe you have a new fat on your hands. It'll stick.
Well, that's what I need to do is figure out how to make pasta chips. So TikTok Kitchen, there was a big press release about this through this group, Virtual Dining Concepts in December. But I looked, I don't see that they've actually opened any locations yet. So they're probably still looking for partners. So, I mean, what do you guys think about this social media partnership with a restaurant? Like, am I on target? Like, if I'm a restaurateur, should I be, first off, does it make sense for me to do a virtual brand? And then secondly, do I partner with like a wings and a burger brand? Is this the feta? Mm-hmm. Oh, look at this.
It's so confusing.
So I'm not saying that it is bad. I just don't understand why it's such a thing.
Yeah.
The idea, I mean,
you mean the feta pasta that right there that we just watched?
Yes.
I
Right.
mean,
Next on my thing is Alison Roman's shrimp cocktail. But I guess my point is, one, sheet pan things are popular, right? Because they're easy.
Mhm.
So I get that it is popular, but why? I mean, this is getting into things that I don't understand about just fads, right? And
Mhm,
how things
mhm.
can blow up on TikTok. But it's just like, it's fine. I don't need to order it. If you want, I think also the point is that you make it. You do it. It takes 20 minutes. Why am I buying it from someplace else? Like, the whole point is like, oh my God, this works. I can make this
That is a
quickly.
great point, that it's
Yeah.
all TikTok seems to be what food I've seen on TikTok has been about, easy food hacks,
Mhm.
Yes.
right? Yeah.
And like,
Interesting.
you do this. Look how easy. Look how fun. You do
Right.
this.
Yeah.
Don't outsource this.
All right. Well, I think that at the end of the day, like, my final outlook is, I think that virtual brands are interesting and they're going to make up a percentage of off-premise dining in the future. No doubt about it. But a brand that's organized around fads by its very nature makes it difficult for it to have a long-term success, is what I would say, to sum that up. Do you guys agree?
I would definitely agree with that. And as much as, I'm sure these restaurants are trying to find a way to make use of their excess capacity, maybe it seems like a band-aid as opposed to like a real fix, so yeah, as even though the pasta strips might be delicious, you're right that the shelf life of people's interests in them is not very long. So I don't know.
Yeah, maybe I'm putting too much stock into our desire for authenticity, like post-COVID, of post being in our homes. And again, no Omicron's a thing. And I think my outlook is we're reining it in. We're not stopping. We're not hunkering down for months at a time. Anyway, but the idea of that, like, when I go out and when I'm going to choose to do these things, I want a real experience. I want a real restaurant. Again, not to say there isn't a place and a time for all of those things, but again, it's more of a fad. I don't think you become a long-term customer.
Yeah.
So
Right. Yeah. Well, we should check back on this, especially when they start opening up locations. I'm sure the first places they'll do it are New York and LA. So one of you guys can be the guinea pig for that.
we can do it. It's like the other popular YouTube thing is an unboxing, right? You open toys or whatever and play with them. We'll do that. We should do an unboxing of some ghost kitchen delivery concept.
I love it. That's
Absolutely.
awesome.
Yeah.
All right, we'll check back on that. Hey, in the meantime, check out the latest episode of the Where We Buy audio podcast. This was a real labor of love for me. It was Ann Mazenga and I did a tour of Area 15 in Las Vegas, and also of Meow Wolf, which is a part of Area 15. If you don't know what any of these words mean, you should really check out the podcast to find out, because it's a bunch of insanity. It is perhaps the mall of the future. That's the question that we attempt to answer. Go to wherewebuy.show or subscribe to the Where We Buy podcast in whatever Spotify, iTunes, or other podcast app you like to use.
Absolutely. And if you love this show, which I'm sure you do, please hit the subscribe button on YouTube and click on the little bell icon so that you're notified when new shows come out each week.
Or you can follow the JLL retail page on LinkedIn. And don't worry, everyone. Our holiday break is over. We will be back next week. New episode will be next Thursday, 9 a.m. Pacific, 12 p.m. Eastern. You can find that on everythingweknow.show, or, as I just mentioned, on the JLL Retail LinkedIn page.
Absolutely. So, Taylor, tell me, like, which restaurant types do you think are going to recover the fastest?
Oh, fantastic question, Ebere. I'll tell you all of those answers and more next week.